Hi all, welcome to week 4, discussing chapter 3 in our book, A Good Night's Sleep. And in this chapter, we are talking about digital toxicity, FOMO, digital obesity, all these different terms that I honestly haven't heard of until I read the book. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you, at the filming of this introductory video, I can honestly say that on my slave or master addiction survey, I'm probably right up there under addiction. So although I don't watch television or news, things like that, I definitely can feel the struggle is real when it comes to screen addiction. So just a couple of things that I found interesting in our chapter that hopefully you'll have further discussion on is the distractions of our phones and our screens. I think for me, you might be listening to what somebody's saying but not really listening at all, and I think about how many moments I've missed and not been fully present to enjoy the moment or to hear the person because of that distraction. A big thing, honestly, for me is that fear of missing out. I didn't know it was a real thing. A friend of mine had mentioned it, and I was like, what is that? FOMO? Like, really? But it really feeds our egos, which we know is the opposite of our soul, which is the opposite of our true self, of who we are. And the ego is a pretty gnarly piece of our personality that we have to keep in check, to be quite honest. Again, all of this is newer information to me, but I think knowledge is power. So if we can go from here, right? I'm looking at my notes, but the ego has to be in the know. And Facebook is perfect for that because you need to know what's going on, right? It just keeps scrolling and ticking. And then I guess I don't do other forms of social media, but I mean, if you're on all the other ones, I guess I can't even imagine the noise like we discussed last week of Twitter and Instagram and Snapchat and texting and I mean LinkedIn and all of these different things. I mean, Pinterest, it could be just a constant bombardment of sensory overload, things, information coming in. So it feeds the ego. We need to know that. We start to also compare ourselves in that piece of FOMO and Facebook. I know myself too. It looks so perfect. You looked so perfect. I must be that way. I need to learn what you know, and those comparisons start, which again could add to the stress and feeding the ego. So all of these things come down to it. I didn't know this was interesting too, but when you get the ping, like you have mail or you have a text message, maybe this isn't the same for all of us, but you release dopamine, which is euphoria, which you crave that, you really want that again. And so it is interesting that, when we're almost like Pavlov's dogs, we hear the ping and, we hear the bell and we salivate. Well, it's like we hear this ping and we're like, oh, what is that? That little bit of good feeling. The other thing I thought was interesting was a busy mind in the digital dementia. They kind of joke about the parent, like, Mom, I'm still at the grocery store or whatever. But isn't that true? Like when we talk to HR departments, I mean, that's one of the things that they complain about the most is that people don't read the emails or don't like really read the emails, and I've been a culprit. Raise my hand right here, but you'll kind of like scroll and you'll look at it, but you don't actually absorb it. So I've gotten in the practice now, if there's something I need to know, I print it out, and I've been taught this, that you highlight it and make your marks, and like you take your time, and it's okay to take that time. And then I know this is getting long, but this is a really big one for me, very convicting. But civility, they said, that the internet and, even Facebook was really responsible for a decline in civility. And if anybody is on Facebook, you really know that in this past year about how it's so much easier to throw things out there in words and opinions, and when you're not face to face with that person that you're throwing it out there too. So I can definitely believe it. So now the next step is now what, right? What parameters do we have, those healthy boundaries? So there's some self-assessments and some checklists that we can do to really set those healthy boundaries. So have a good session.